Good evening, everyone. Tony Noonan speaking, just reporting on infantry and his performance at Windsor Saturday evening. Just had the opportunity to speak to Andrew. Hadn't been able to speak to him personally. I have had a look at the replay. Andrew is of the opinion that the horse is really struggling with these firm tracks. They've had no rain in England. The tracks are very firm. They don't tend to water over there, so they're firmer than they would normally be. And he seems to be a horse that he's got such a high extravagant action, and he hits the ground fairly hard, and he has a high head carriage that he doesn't have the action to be comfortable in that sort of ground. And he's a little bit concerned going forward with the tracks as they are at the moment. And I'm reluctant to go forward if we're not getting a result. I just can't see any sense in continuing to put the horse in that situation without getting some sort of result. And he's only a lightly raced horse, and we've got hopefully the best in front of him. So rather than continue along that line, I would think that we may be best just easing up with him at the moment. The other thing that he did suggest is that he really believes that we should look at probably gelding the horse. He believes that he's very colty and he's got very heavy since we've purchased the horse. And I noticed that on inspection when I was at Kingsley to look at the horse. He has got very big, and he believes this is exasperating the situation with him hitting the ground on very firm tracks, which we're likely to find in Australia at certain times. So I think it's well worth looking at that option. I originally, when I bought the horse, was of the opinion that I would geld him. Andrew was such that he didn't see any need at that stage, but now that he's raced, he believes that it's probably not to his advantage being a colt. He's just running a little bit too free and a little bit too keen, and he's hitting the ground hard with a lot more shoulder, neck, weight forward of the saddle that he needs to have at this stage. It's an interesting situation. I'm going to give a little bit of time to think about it, and I'll discuss it with Dick, but that may be, if we're going to do it, now would be the time to do it. I'd prefer to get that done so that we don't miss a lot of training. He can then still have one run before quarantine and then be in a position to come here and race. If we continue down without looking at that situation, then we're going to have to stop and geld him. We may have to stop and geld him when he returns home, and then we'd lose ground in that situation. So I think it's something that we need to think about. And at this stage, I would probably look at saying yes to the situation and getting that done as soon as possible. But as I said, I'll discuss it with Dick and then with everyone, and then we'll make a decision from there. All's not lost. It was a disappointment, but he has had a fair bit of spacing between runs, which didn't help the situation because he's been unable to get start. So just hasn't worked as well as we would have liked to have. But at the same stage, it's important that we keep the horse's welfare first and utmost in our minds, so that we get the best of the situation when we return him to Australia. We'll be in touch later. Thanks, everyone.